So I had a couple experiences recently that were precognitive. In other words, um, I had dreams or visions about them. Um, maybe year over a year before or 2 years before. I'm not sure how long it had been, but what tends to happen is I have a dream that's emotional, but also, unusual, inexplicable, and, um, this has happened several times in regards to where I currently, live, um, and so I have not been meditating much lately, um, but it's still kinda wild when these precognitive experiences happen, and I wonder, um, since I have not been meditating lately, then I don't expect to have any more precognitive experiences. And then I wonder, what does that mean? Like, am I losing am I losing touch with the truth of reality if I do not have precognitive visions? Which is kind of a strange thing to think, but a good book on this is the Falcon, which is a biography of a white European boy who was kidnapped by the Ojibwe and adopted by a single woman who was a hunter. Um, and there's like the main sort of the apex of the book is when they're starving in the woods, because this is after the Europeans have taken over the US, and these guys are like hiding out in the wilderness, the last remaining wilderness. And so she goes on a vision quest to find where they can hunt for food, and she has a precognitive vision of this bear, and so she's able to then um, know where to go to find the bear to hunt it. And it's just something that modern normal people could not relate to. And another thing about that book is he was not able to stay in modern Western housing when he moved back from he left the native wilderness lifestyle and tried to be return to his European culture, and he could not sleep indoors. And I mean, he tried, but he didn't survive much longer. It's his last name was Tanner. Um, Falcon, the biography of Tanner, and it was Louise Erdrich's favorite book when she was growing up, Ojibwe on the reservation. Her like mom or somebody or would read it to her, and so she wrote the forward to this book. Because I was hanging out in the library in Minneapolis, and there was a young um, librarian, young lady who I don't know. We started talking because I was like sitting on the floor. I don't know if I was can't remember how we started talking, but, I mentioned she had mentioned Louise Erdrich, and because the Louise Erdrich store her store was in Minneapolis, and my friend worked there, my activist friend from the university, who's also a Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and I myself, my our housekeeper, that I grew up with was Anishinaabe, and her dad was a medicine man, and I did not know that. But she was like, I kind of imprinted on her because she would be like in the hallway and I'd be in my bedroom and I saw her and I just thought, wow, she's really sincere, she's working really hard. She was like the first person I saw physically, working hard and being sincere and stuff. And I was always impressed by her demeanor, and she seemed like a really good person. I had no idea that her dad was a medicine man on White Earth Reservation, and her last name was Morrison, and Morrison's like a famous he, painter from the Ojibwe Anishinaabe in Minnesota, and I think his artwork is in the Museum of Modern Art or something in New York or something like that. But her that was her brother-in-law because her husband was his brother. So anyway, my point is that yeah, it's interesting to have when you have these precognitive visions, they actually come true in real life, and then you're like, okay, well, what is the truth of reality? Because in non-Western philosophy, you cannot see the truth. So when you have a precognitive vision, it's still not quite the same as the truth of reality, but it's this message from the future. And I even had the qigong master gymnast. He gave me a precognitive reading of my life. Wasn't He didn't say much, but he said just two things that were like key messages that he wanted me to know. Um, and so they weren't sort of like it's like, well, you don't know if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because if you have a precognitive vision, it's like, well, if you try to change it, are you actually making it come true? Because Qigong Master Jim Nance said that something like 70% of your life is fate. But if you do a lot of Qigong meditation, then you can change your fate. And this is what like they would mean by, I don't know, longevity and immortality and stuff. So anyway, it's it's kind of hard to know because it's like, well, all you can do is just keep meditating and then rely on the emptiness to sort of solve things for you, because that's what was Qigong Master Jim Nance's big message to me was that the emptiness is what does the healing. That the power is the emptiness, and that's what Chen Yulin said. Also, the more you go into the emptiness, the more power you have. So it's kind of fun stuff to contemplate, that's the source of power of the universe and of being alive or whatever, that the mystery. But these precognitive visions are wild when they happen because they're always based on some like profound emotional connection through the heart. So that sense of love that then is a sense of harmonization, like you know result resolution or harmony from the future. And then you discover that that's what science actually realized, also what Louis de Broglie called it, the law of phase harmony. And he literally realized that this is the truth of reality. That was his greatest discovery, that the future is actually guiding the present and harmonizing it, and as a force, anti-gravitational force with information. So it's really fascinating that science like came to the same discovery that you find in meditation, but then how that relates back into meditation is where things get real tricky, because you have the whole like Freemasonry scene with Platonic philosophy, and it always like messes things up because people get caught up. They don't realize that they've been raised in Western Platonic philosophy, so they try to they don't realize that even quantum physics, as it's normally understood, is still not quite there. So it's like, that's where you get into the non-commutativity stuff, which is what I've been focusing on, is the non-commutativity is the truth of meditation, and also the truth of science. But then that gets you into the ecological crisis, and it's sort of like, well, the future doesn't look very bright in terms of the ecological crisis and what that means for civilization and the future of life on Earth. And um, so, so the question is, well, is there some way around that juggernaut? And all we can do is just keep meditating. So, anyway, I recommend this book, The Falcon.